On this 2015 to 2025 F150 with the 3.5 EcoBoost, P0401 is an EGR flow code. In plain terms, the PCM may be seeing less EGR flow than it expected when the EGR system is being commanded on. The driver may only notice a check engine light, or there can be possible drivability complaints depending on when the fault shows up. For this diagnostic, think in three broad areas: the DPFE feedback signal, the pressure hoses and orifice tube that let the sensor read flow, and the electric EGR assembly and its circuits. Start with the basic system checks. If other codes are present, especially circuit-related codes, check what they mean first so you are not chasing a flow code with a wiring fault still active. For the P0401 path, begin at the DPFE sensor side. Key off, disconnect the differential pressure feedback EGR sensor connector. Key on, check the reference voltage and signal return between C1471 pin 3 and C1471 pin 2. You want 4.5V5, 5V. If that is not there, stop this flow diagnosis and handle the reference voltage or return circuit problem first. If it is correct, key off, disconnect the PCM connector and check the DPFE signal circuit from C1471 pin 1 to C175E pin 79. Resistance should be less than 5 ohms. If it is not, repair the open, clear PCM DTCs and repeat the self-test. Next, check that DPFE circuit for a short to ground. The resistance needs to be greater than 10,000 ohms. Then key on and check the same DPFE circuit for a short to voltage. No voltage should be present. On those short checks, if the return point is not clear at the vehicle, pause, recheck the earlier diagnostic path, and avoid guessing at a meter connection. If the DPFE circuit checks pass, reconnect the DPFE sensor and PCM connectors. Key on, monitor DPFE pre's in kPa and DPFE in volts. Then wiggle, shake, and bend small sections of the harness from the sensor back toward the PCM. The reading should stay stable and no concern should show up. If the reading changes or the concern appears, repair as needed, clear PCM DTCs, and repeat the self-test. After that, inspect the upstream and downstream DPFE pressure hoses. Make sure they are routed correctly, especially if prior work may have put the hoses on opposite ports. Look for leaks, restrictions, water intrusion, and carbon buildup. Also inspect the DPFE sensor and orifice tube assembly for restriction or damage at the pickup tubes, plus water intrusion and carbon. If water intrusion is present, install a new differential pressure feedback EGR sensor. Clean the hoses and orifice tube, clear PCM DTCs, and repeat the self-test. For other hose or tube concerns, repair as necessary and retest. If no concern is found, test the DPFE sensor output. With the hoses connected, key on, monitor DPFE pre's and DPFE, record the DPFE value, start the engine, and record it again. The engine off to running DPFE PID difference must be less than 0.075 volts, 0 kPa. Then disconnect the pressure hose closest to the electrical connector, connect a hand vacuum pump to that sensor port, apply 2730 kPa 8.9 in HG vacuum, and hold for 10 seconds. With key on and no vacuum applied, the DPFE PID should be between 1.3 and 1.7 volts, 0 kPa. With vacuum applied, it should increase to greater than 2.5 volts, 25 kPa. When vacuum is released, it should drop back to between 1.3 and 1.7 volts, 0 kPa in less than 5 seconds. If the DPFE response indicates a sensor concern, install a new differential pressure feedback EGR sensor, clear PCM DTCs, and repeat the self-test. If the DPFE side passes for P0401, continue into the electric EGR assembly side of the diagnosis. Now move to the electric EGR assembly checks for the P0401 path. Key on, confirm the active code path, then inspect the eager connector. The connector contacts should be clean and correctly seated. If the code is intermittent, move the harness and connectors while taking measurements so you do not miss a connection problem. If the connector is not clean or not seated correctly, repair as necessary, clear PCM-DTCs and repeat the self-test. With the eager assembly connector disconnected and the key on, check the EGR circuit feed. Voltage should be greater than 10.5 V. If it is not, repair the open circuit, clear PCM-DTCs and repeat the self-test. Then key off, disconnect the eager assembly connector and the PCM connector. Check the EGR circuits from C1944 pin 4 to C175E pin 2, and from C1944 pin 5 to C175E pin 23. Resistance should be less than 5 ohms. If not, repair the open circuit, clear PCM-DTCs and repeat the self-test. Next, check those EGR circuits for a short to ground. Resistance should be greater than 10,000 ohms. Then check for a short between the EGR circuits by measuring between C1944 pin 4 and C1944 pin 5. That should also be greater than 10,000 ohms. Key on. Check the EGR circuits for a short to voltage at C1944 pin 4 and C1944 pin 5. No voltage should be present. Again, if the return point for a short check is not clear at the vehicle, pause, recheck the earlier diagnostic path, and do not guess. If the circuits pass, key off and check the EGR coils at the component side between C1944 pin 4 and C1944 pin 5. Coil resistance should be between 1,900 ohms. If it is outside that range on this 3.5 EcoBoost, install a new electric exhaust gas recirculation assembly, clear PCM-DTCs, and repeat the self-test. Before the final correct operation check, there are supporting branches in this same EGR diagnosis that can come into play. For the MAP check, key on, access the PCM, monitor the MAP PID in kPa and record the value. Start the engine and record it again. The MAP PID value should be higher than 69 kPa 10 psi, with the ignition on and engine off, and lower than 69 kPa 10 psi, with the ignition on and engine running. If that check says the concern is not present at the moment, make sure the MAP sensor is correctly seated and the vacuum source is not restricted. Then clear PCM-DTCs and repeat the self-test. If the diagnosis sends you to the running self-test branch, carry out the key on, engine running self-test and see whether that fault is retrieved again. The EGR valve position feedback side is checked separately. Key off, disconnect the eager assembly connector, then key on and measure between C1944 pin 3 and C1944 pin 1. Voltage should be between 4.5 V5 V. If that reference and return check is good, key off, disconnect the PCM connector, and check the EGF circuit between C1944 pin 2 and C1232E pin 47. Resistance should be less than 5 ohms. Then check that EGF circuit for a short to ground. Resistance should be greater than 10,000 ohms. Key on. Check the EGF circuit for a short to voltage at C1944 pin 2. No voltage should be present. If the meter connection for a short check is not clear at the vehicle, pause, recheck the earlier diagnostic path, and avoid guessing. For the final check, reconnect the eager assembly connector and the PCM connector, then verify whether the concern is still present. If it is still present on this 3.5 EcoBoost after the circuit and coil checks have passed, install a new electric exhaust gas recirculation assembly, clear PCM-DTCs, and repeat the self-test. If the concern is no longer present, the system is operating correctly at this time, and the fault may have been caused by a loose or corroded connector. Keep verification separate from the testing. After any repair, clear the PCM-DTCs, repeat the self-test, verify the repair, and confirm the code stays gone. The takeaway is simple. For P0401, prove the DPFE feedback path and hose routing first, then prove the electric EGR assembly circuits before condemning the assembly. For more diagnostic training, visit stepdiagnostics.com.